Hey everybody, we're so excited to be here with you right now. I hope everybody is doing well. I don't know where you're joining from, but I can tell you I am currently in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it is snowing outside in April. So I hope wherever you are, it's not snowing. Is it snowing by you, Siiri?
It's not snowing today. I feel bad. I think maybe I passed the snow to you. So I'm in Bellingham, Washington, which is a very small little college town near the Canadian border, north of Seattle by about an hour and a half. And it snowed 3 days in a row at the beginning of last week, which I kind of knew was coming because it likes to do that at the beginning of April up here in Western Washington. So I apologize.
That's okay. I'll get you back. Don't worry. I'll send it back your way. Maybe
okay, great.
Go back west again.
Yeah, great.
Well, we are really excited to be talking today about this subject of when you're working from home and you are in a small space, how do you handle it? And so I just want to do a couple of housekeeping things first, and then let's get into it and talk about the things that you're teaching in these courses. But also we want to get to know who Siiri is, because I mean, listen, you guys, if you don't know Siiri yet, you need to know her because she is a powerhouse. So by the end of this, you'll be like, I got to follow her on everything that I can. I'm telling you right now. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, so we are connected because of this collaboration that has happened over the last few weeks of experts from across the US who have come together specifically to serve people who are working from home. We're all people who are working from home. Most of us have been doing it for a while, and so we know how hard it is to adjust. And there's so many things, because right now it's not just about working from home, but there's so many elements to it. There's emotional things, there's physical things, there's relationship things that happen because we're doing this now. And so we wanted to really get in and quickly develop courses to support people who are working from home, whether that's by choice or force. We've got you covered. So we have been collaborating to create, I mean, literally in the last few weeks, have created over 30 courses and put them in a bundle. So we'll talk about this at the end, but we're really excited about the quality and content of what we have to offer in that group. So that's how Siiri and I are connected. And there's so many other amazing experts who are a part of this. And so Siiri has a lot of different expertise, but we're going to talk today about her experiences because she's been living and working in this tiny space. But before we get into that, I just want to ask the viewers, if you are watching, we want you to comment. Tell us where you're watching from. If you're watching a replay, also let us know that. If you're watching live, there should be a thing above your chat box that says grant StreamYard access, something like that. If you just click on it, I promise, it's not going to do anything weird. It's just letting us know who comments. So when we see it in the comment thread, we'll have your name attached versus just like anonymous user, because we want to talk to you directly. This is live because we want you to be able to ask questions and interact. So if you have questions at any point, please pop them into the chat and we'll do our best to tackle those before we finish. So sound good? We're looking forward to seeing where you guys are watching from. Put those in the comments and then let's get started. Great. So Siiri, tell us how you got connected to this project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am networked together with a really wonderful instructor. Her name is Devin Jones. She has courses on the platform. She deals in the emotional health and awareness space. That's kind of how I umbrella her district of learning. And so she'll be in the self and soul care bundle underneath our larger work from home essentials bundle on the platform. And Devin and I connected through a different colleague, a completely different colleague that's more in my lane of food and in the hospitality industry. And this woman is more aligned in food blogging. So that's originally how I got connected to this project that Kelly was spearheading. Devin said, hey, Siiri, I think you really have some things that people might be able to utilize in terms of resources and tools, as well as an approach to how I work from home, being that I am in not what we think of today as a tiny home, but kind of the original version of a tiny home. And that's how this first started. And then once you and I, Kelly, began that conversation of what might I be able to offer up, we also then began talking about my actual work as a chef and as a food educator, and what might I be able to impart on folks who now all of a sudden are home 24/7, wherever they are, how close or far away they may be from public places like grocery stores that are open and available without lines or even at all, or with or without home delivery options, with or without outdoor spaces available to them in their homes. So we started that conversation about how could I potentially think about all of the content I utilize in my daily life as a food educator and a chef, both in commercial kitchens and with clients one-on-one and previously in group class formats, and bundle up some ideas and concepts that people could use to kind of ease the pain of transition and systematize things that in their previous iteration of living at home, they didn't need to employ quite so readily.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so tell us a little bit more about your background as a chef.
Absolutely. So this is not my first career chapter, but it is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to cook, and more so, I'm meant to share my knowledge and teach others. That's really my passion. So I come from the fine dining end of the spectrum, and almost 2.5 years ago, I left the restaurant world to move into food education full time. I just found that the moment of joy I have in cooking food is actually doing that with other people and sharing with them the information that I have gathered over all the different places I've cooked and lived, and helping them empower themselves to want to learn and to be able to feed themselves in a delicious, healthy way that doesn't really take any more time or budget than the average person might have. And in fact, quite the opposite, giving them ideas of how they can be efficient, both with their dollars and with their time, so they can enjoy the best parts of cooking and eating and being well nourished without having to shell out the big bucks for all of those things that go along with it in a lot of what we see today in mainstream food marketing and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the environment that we're in today, where people are feeling financially insecure and also cooking insecure. You know, so many people are really not confident in their cooking skills. So it's really cool that you are doing that with people and that you've brought some of those skills. So we're going to have another session where we focus on the food side of what you've brought to this project. And that's also so valuable because we need to know, first of all, that we can do it. People who don't have confidence in the kitchen like me, we need to know we can do it. And we also need encouragement that we can do it for far less than we think, both time-wise and money-wise.
100%.
So probably stuff we've already got sitting in our cupboard.
Yes, and I am obviously very pumped to talk about those two courses that deal in that category. And so that live interview that we're doing is this coming Wednesday at, I think we said 12 p.m. Pacific.
Yes.
So looking forward to talking about all of that. And I'm excited to have this interview focusing on the very first course that brought us together, the concept of working and living and working from home and living from home, which sounds weird, but that's where we're at, right? And doing so in tiny spaces. And I have been meeting with my clients online, my private clients that I deal with fitness and nutrition, which is a part of my business. I've been meeting with them online for the entirety of the time that I've been working from home, which is now since December of 2017. So I've developed my skill set and my operational systems over the last almost 2.5 years. And when I just had a bunch of my clients all of a sudden have to shut down their offices and go home, they were saying, hey, this is really hard. You know, I'm in a studio apartment, or I am in a 1-bedroom home, and all of a sudden, you know, we're on top of each other. And so I realized, like, oh, I'm giving them little hints and tricks of how I do it. And that really was the genesis of what I was thinking about when I put together this coursework.
Yeah, and you have some fantastic tips. And so we won't get into all of the tips today, but I want to talk about a couple of the things that really stuck out to me. But before we do that, can you just tell us a little bit about the space that you're living and working in? And how big is it? Or how not big is it?
So you're seeing the one common room behind me. So I live in what's called a carriage house from 1900. And so this predates our concept of tiny homes. And it's behind a big colonial home in this neighborhood. So this is where the chauffeur, like driver / butler would live, along with the cook / maid for the main household. So there was no kitchen in here originally, which is kind of comical considering I'm a chef. But I'm going to give you a quick spin so you guys can see how small this really is. It's 350 square feet in total. So akin to a 1-room studio, but it's really well laid out. I'm very, very fortunate. It's very well laid out. So, and there's project piles, which is something I talk about in this course. So you're going to see some stuff that I talk about in the coursework. But here we go, unadulterated. Okay, so this is, where am I? Here you can see my home office right there, my tiny little love seat right
there it is.
Door. And my one tiny little end table. There we go, right in the back corner there that I use as a little makeshift sideboard. And then around the front, there's the rest of the living room with one of my bookcases. These are my project piles. Let's see, which direction do I go? You can see my project piles on the floor there, which project bags and how to compartmentalize is something I spend a lot of time on in this course. And then I will take you into my kitchen, which has lots of dirty dishes. This is real. This is not staged. So I have dirty dishes. I also have things on my refrigerator that help me stay organized, especially as a chef. These are all the go-to herbs that I use on a regular basis right behind me here. And then my tiny little oven that I've got. And of course I have all the utensils that I use on a daily basis up there on the wall. Just trying to think about how I organize a commercial kitchen space and then really try to replicate that with some few alterations in here. Dirty dishes in the sink, because this was built in 1900, so I have no dishwasher. And that's the kitchen. Now you've seen it. The dishes go in there.
Yeah.
And my chest of drawers from God knows when is my pantry. It's really tiny. And then 3 steps later, I'm in my bedroom, which is also fairly petite. And I have one closet, and there it is right behind me. And that's it for the entire house. And then the bathroom is a tiny postage stamp. It's literally this big.
Yeah.
I call it the prison sink. And that's pretty much it. I can stand in here wall to wall, right? And that's pretty much it. So it's, definitely takes a lot of, you can see all of the organization I've installed. And I have really tried to spend no money as much as humanly possible. So looking around for scraps in the basement, or my shelves are made of old stair treads from a remodel in the 70s. And, just thinking about what can I repurpose. And repurposing is a huge section of what this course deals with, talking about repurposing materials in the house, or spaces in the house, or stations in the house, or pieces of furniture in the house. So thinking a lot about what you use ordinarily, and then wiping that slate clean and thinking about what else could that be pivoted for.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to just first say hi to Clarissa, who's watching in LA. So it's good to see you, Clarissa. I hope that you're going to get some tips and tricks here. And we're looking forward to, Clarissa's also going to be live talking about having fun with your teams while you're remote, right? Infusing that. So we're excited about that. So I want to go to this. I can't believe you segued. I promise we did not practice this. But the first thing that I was going to ask you about was the repurposing. Oh, yeah. And what would you say? Because I think a lot of times people do think okay, well, now I'm going to have to invest in a lot of expensive pieces to make an office work at home.
Yeah.
But in fact, you have really great tips about repurposing. And so what are some of the common things that you've seen people repurpose to use for a home office?
Sure. So a couple of those, I'm standing right now. I find that especially because this is such a small space, I end up spending a lot of time sitting on my tiny little couch. And it's a 2-person love seat, which I bought at an estate sale, unused, from a little old lady for $100, and I still have the plastic on it. And it's a pull-out. I bought it because it's a pull-out couch, so if my nephews come and stay for movie night, they can be there. But the thing about it is that it's bad for my back, and sitting all the time, this is my big office area, right? And so I repurposed it. So I have an ottoman, which I'll show you. And ottomans are honestly God's gift to home offices, or makeshift home offices. So I use that ottoman quite a bit as my computer desktop as I'm sitting on the couch. But the thing that I see people repurposing a lot, and the reason I bought these is because they are so versatile, are these $20 stools, which I bought at the grocery store in the home goods section at
the grocery store.
Fred Meyer, yeah. So a Kroger grocery store, they have a furnishings area, and they stack. They can be put together, and I can put a board on top of them if I'm doing food styling for my blog, or for an article, or for a client. And they actually are pretty comfortable. They're low profile. They're white. I try to keep, if I'm purchasing something new, I try to buy it in white so that it doesn't take up a lot of visual heavy space. And then also right behind me, where is it there?
I know it's always confusing. Which side is it on?
The little corner table that I have is actually a square TV tray that I saw at the Goodwill for $2, and I bought it, and I just put it in the corner for a long time. And then I happened to be at a salvage yard we have here in town called the Restore, and there were these big, beautiful marble tiles that were on clearance for $1, and I bought it, and it happened to be the right size. And so I popped that on top, and it can collapse. That's the beauty of it, right? I can move that, I can remove that if I want to. So having spaces that are flat, small, stackable, compactable, that's really the name of the game that I found is super helpful. And the only other surface countertop that I have in this whole house is the breakfast bar, which the laptop is on right now. So here's what that looks like. And you can see I have a tackle box on top, which is my other secret weapon. I use tackle boxes for everything. You can buy them really inexpensively. And of course, right now, shipping online is a little bit more difficult. So if you can stand to wait, but tackle boxes are great. This one is full of all my jewelry. I have one for all of my crafts. I have one for kitchen tools and utensils that I take with me on bigger remote projects. So tackle boxes compartmentalize everything, and they're interchangeable. And you can also then, and this is like a really good but funny tool, they have smaller sleeves that you can take out and take with you if you need to go somewhere. So if you need to work remotely from somewhere else, you can do that as well.
Yeah, that's great. So I heard you say that flexibility, things that can compact and move easily, like those are really some key essentials to think about. And so in this environment, because the restore is a great idea, I think restores exist a lot across the country. They're linked with the Habitat for Humanities at the same restore that you're talking about. So you go there and they have like from commercial projects, people will donate either extra things from commercial, or like they pull out the old and put in new, and so they'll donate the old. So there's a lot of things that you can get there. Obviously, that's not an option for right now. And so as people look around their homes, what would you encourage them? Like, how could they put on the eyes of thinking about repurposing and using things that are compactable and movable?
Sure, 100%. So if you have any sort of chair or stool with no back, that to me is a table. And anything that you have more than one of. So for instance, if I had, a small dining room table with 4 chairs at it, and I find that I'm running out of space, if my chairs stack, I would probably want to take that table and maybe move it into a different area of the room, either up against a wall or into a corner temporarily, and use 2 chairs instead of 4, and then take those 2 chairs and either stack them and store them in a closet in the basement, or repurpose them as another surface area in another room if I felt like I was lacking elsewhere. Sometimes if you have enough room and you're in a space that's not too tiny, setting up 2 workstations in 2 different areas. So as corny as this sounds and as small as you see my room is, do you see right there I have that chair? Let me see if I can move this so you guys can see a little bit better. So I bought that chair for $20 at consignment, and I don't have a tabletop or anything to go with it, but I use it when I am reading and editing for clients or for myself, whether it's for my website or for a recipe or whatever I'm working on. That's like my editorial corner, because it puts my mindset in a completely different space. And just as we compartmentalize the stations and the workstations that we have and time block, we're compartmentalizing our day now. I like to compartmentalize my brain as well. When I'm in work mode, I try to single task the thing that I'm working on. And so getting up and physically moving to another corner of the room, even though I'm in the same room, it changes my perspective, and it allows me to shed all of the other things that were creating visual noise, which is something I touch on quite a bit in the first section of the course, thinking about all the visual noise that's around you and how can you eliminate a lot of that just by using a few quick things to change the space physically, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a thing, speaking as somebody who I've gone through this iteration, my guess is like, can you walk into a new space and look at it and go, I know how I could organize this more efficiently?
Yes, I'm sure that if I have any friends and family watching right now, they're probably laughing because I tend to maybe do that out loud sometimes with the most loving, best intentions. And I can hear a couple of specific people laughing in my mind right now. I look at a space and I think, oh, that's a cool piece that I would use. And I think about it more in terms of how I would flip it and use it as something else, right? So I always think about tables that I see that are just gathering dust, or I see that, a piece of furniture, if I'm at a friend's house and they're never ever sitting in it, I realize like that's not a well-used corner, and why might that be, right? And maybe it's because it's not really set up to be functional. So one of the things that I like to do, at least here, even I've done this a few times here, I've lived here 3 years, and I will completely flip the furniture around from one wall to the other just to get my brain in a new frame of reference. And then sometimes I actually move it all back, but when I move it all back, I'm pulling things out, right? I'm trying to be more minimalistic about what is visually on display. And one of the ways that I can do that, even on a daily temporary basis without going through a full gut job, because honestly, not a lot of us have time for that right now as we're pivoting our businesses to be more digital and online, I use what I call project bags. Project bags are paper grocery sacks.
Yes, that was, again, not planned, but I was going to ask you to tell us the special use for paper grocery sacks.
Okay, I have 2. Let me grab them.
Yes. Okay. I love this because I am somebody who I was like a hoarder for a long time. I could never organize stuff. I can organize people easily, but stuff is a little bit more intimidating. Yeah. But I have realized that it doesn't have to be as intimidating and overwhelming as it can feel. Sure. And you give such practical tips in your course that even people like me who shy away from like feeling like I can even possibly figure it out, you really help walk us through and feel like, okay, we can do this too. And I love what you just said about like looking around and like, if you're not using a space, think about why and what can make that space more functional. So just starting to ask those questions, I think we'll come up with answers that we didn't realize we even had.
For sure.
So let's see these. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so and also hilariously, I just used my stool as my like quick makeshift table, right? So
yeah.
It's what I have to do now, right? So okay, I have 2 project bags. I promise this was not planned. These are literally project bags I have been working on today, and I will pick back up and continue working on today. So this front one has all of my seeds in it for planting in my garden. So I have a 20-foot raised bed, and today I put all my seeds out all over the ottoman, and I bundled them up into groups. So I have all my seeds in groups for florals, and then vegetables, and then by season. And then I have little baggies inside of this bag that have them all grouped out, right? So bags inside of bags. And then when I don't want to look at this project, this fits in the closet. This fits under my bed. This fits under the sink. This fits down. I have a tiny little basement area. This fits right in there, right? So that's my tiny little project for when we're done with this call today. And then the other thing that I have is just a standard grocery sack. And in here are all of the pieces. I worked on this last night. This is all the material that I was given by donation from people in my local COVID-19 helpers group in my neighborhood. And they donated remnants from quilting to me so that I could help. One of my clients works at the hospital, and she's on the ER swing shift team. So I'm sewing surgical caps for them tonight. So, you know, it's like I can just bundle it all up. I know where I left it. It's ready to go. And if I have 3 brown paper sacks lined up in a row, it mentally gives me a little bit of breathing room, right? So then these guys, and then if I happen to have a call where I need to have that space shown, I can easily pick them up and move them in a jiffy. And they're, you know, they're lightweight, they're easy to use, they're easy to remember. And if I have too many and some of them need to go out to the car, I can put labels on them or Post-it notes or just write on them in Sharpie because I have a million of them, right? And they store away super easily. So that's what I use my project bags for. And that was honestly born out of the nightmare of all of a sudden working from home 24/7 when I first really got my business up and running. And I realized, oh my God, like I can't afford an office. This is it. I'm home. This is the office. Yeah. And everywhere I looked was a distraction. And when you're trying to get something going from scratch, it's really hard when you're pivoting and you're starting from scratch. So if you're in this space that's supposed to be relaxing in your home environment and you're not used to having to buckle down and work there, everything I saw, like dirty dishes, and I hate dirty dishes. Like those dirty dishes have been there for 3 days. Like I don't want to do them, right? But I would rather do dirty dishes than have to bear down and think about what this project is that's brand new that I'm looking at a blank sheet of paper. So anything I saw was a distraction and I would do that instead. Yeah. It was really anti-productive or counterproductive.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. Science has really shown us that our physical environment does have an impact on our mental environment. Yeah. And so, keeping things as organized as you can, especially now that people are having to share their living and working space, it is a really big deal. And I think like anything, as we're adjusting, giving ourselves grace and experimenting and trying something. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. Try something new. Yeah. I think that it's important to remember, and you've talked about that too, like try it one way, and if that doesn't work, try it another way. Yeah, 100%. And the other thing I'm thinking is like, what if somebody's really stuck and they're like, I just can't, I'm looking at my space and I just can't figure out a better way to organize this so that I don't feel like my work is always in my face. What kind of tips would you give them?
So that's funny you should ask. I had written down a couple of things I really wanted to make sure that we spoke to, and that's one of them. So I have a wall that separates my bedroom from my living room, right? So my number one rule is I never take my work into my bedroom because I really don't want to be cluttering my bedroom with work-related things. It's bad enough when I wake up in the morning and I can hear my phone going off, and I love working with the clients that I have. It's truly my joy. But when I hear my phone going off, my brain instantly goes into work mode. So if I wake up and I open my eyes and the first thing that I see is work, it's very anxiety inducing for me. And I have always suffered from anxiety. And so I try to eliminate that physical potential or possibility from my bedroom. So that's my first thing. The second thing is, and I go into, at the end of this course, I talk to the people who are in studios that are one bedroom with a bed. And I talk to you about how to actually use that to your advantage and how to put those things away and when to do it and how to time block. And I see Clarissa had commented, I had to clean up my house because I was going crazy. Totally, yeah.
Yes.
Outer order, inner calm, 100%, right? But we don't all have that mechanism to stop ourselves and say, okay, wait, I got to back up 20 steps and I have to clear the decks, right? Some of us are just going so fast and we don't have time for that. So the other thing that I would say for people who look and they're like, I can't possibly figure out what to clear out and what to keep. I like to make lists, and lists always help me, number one, reduce my internal anxiety, because when I get it out of my head and onto paper, I'm not worried about forgetting it. So the first thing that I do is I make a list of either everything that's rattling around in my mind, that's one list, and I'll sort that later, right? Then I turn the page and I start a new list of things either I don't have that I need to come up with and ask for from friends, because shipping right now is delayed. So either it's a needs list, right, that I can go around and either text my friends or go onto my Facebook neighborhood, protected contact list, porch pickup list, and ask, does anyone have this within walking distance of me? I also make a list of the spaces that I have in the house, just like a floor plan, but a list floor plan. And then I realize like, oh, okay, I'm currently using this space, my kitchen, to cook meals, as well as like house overflow of dry goods groceries, as well, like when you get a grocery delivery and all of a sudden you accidentally clicked potatoes twice, and so now you have 2 10-pound bags of potatoes. Not that I'm speaking from experience or anything.
Right. I'm sure nobody has ever accidentally ordered way too much. Maybe this is why toilet paper was a shortage, because people just clicked too many times. It wasn't on purpose.
Yeah, right. I make a list of all my rooms, and then under each of those rooms, I say, what am I using that space for, right? And if all of a sudden it's very clear to me that the living room is being used for my crafting studio and for my home office and for movie night and for my workouts and for stretching at night, like that's a lot of things, right? So then I realized like, oh, each of these things I'm using it for is, in my mind, I call it a station, right? So it's a workstation, or it's a workout station, or it's a crafting station. And then once I have the list of all of those stations or all those needs that I have, then I create my project bags. And then all of a sudden I go around and I label them, and then I put all of the things that I'm using when I'm in that mode into that bag. And before I know it, and sometimes I'll use like the nice reusable bags that I have either from the grocery store or all the ones I have from Lululemon, right? And I fill them all up, and then I have those bags sitting there. And then I realize like, oh, okay, actually my space is not as dense as I thought it was. It's just that I had everything out at the same time. And then when you can start to put things inside of other things, that begins the small compartmentalization.
Yeah, and that on my end was a huge learning curve, and I love how you're saying that, and creating space, like being able to take it and put it away. And so for people who aren't used to that, it might mean you've got to switch to your end of day habits to put it back into its little space. But as you build that habit, you'll find that you create so much more peace, way more than the few minutes it takes to clean it up and put it away. You create that peace. So when you come back, you either keep using that space or come back the next day, you're not overwhelmed by having to organize it again.
Absolutely. And I think that honestly, the biggest takeaway that I would have for people after watching the course in its entirety is that not every single tip that I give is going to be applicable for every type of space or every type of lifestyle or every type of job or every industry, right? Or every role, whether you're a business owner or a manager, or you are, a coordinator or an administrator. Not all of it is going to work for everyone, right? And we all know that. But my goal is to give anybody, at least one tip they can attempt to implement for 1 week straight. And even if that tip doesn't end up sticking or working, what it will do is, by putting yourself into this mental growth space, mental growth pattern, allowing your brain to say, oh, that doesn't work, but it spawns this other thought. Or actually, that's not really helping, but it's making me see something that might be helpful. And that will start as a new habit, right? And scientifically, it's proven that you need to perform a skill or a tactic 21 days consecutively in order to form a habit. So if you can stick with even just one new behavior or workspace activity and try to do that for 3 weeks straight, once you find the one that you think might work for you, what you might find is that becomes your new routine or default, and you can build other habits around that to start building out the new building blocks of what your tiny home work and thrive lifestyle looks like.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you talked about, when people go through the whole course, there are other nuggets that we won't have time to cover today, but you talk about how to deal with handwritten notes, and you talk about dealing with a no desk situation, because a lot of small spaces don't have room for an actual physical desk. And so how do you handle that? You talk about repurposing, you talk about what particular planner you use. I know that's a really big topic for a lot of people that either they want to use a planner, but they're overwhelmed trying to choose one. So you give recommendations on that. You talk about other little tips like your external hard drive and how to do filing, which is a huge thing, how to deal with your papers from your receipts to checks to mail to all of that. And you give tips for all of that in your course, which is so great. And just like with any of the courses that are in this bundle, I think it's important for anybody to remember, like, don't overwhelm yourself with trying to change everything at one time. That's why we've put all these resources in a one-stop shop so that you can go back to it as you have time and space and energy. The courses are there for you, but you don't have to do it all at once. I know you're feeling overwhelmed. We know it. We know there's a lot to process. That's why we all came together. But just start doing it one thing at a time, and you'll get there.
Agreed 100%. And one thing that I have heard a lot from a lot of people in my life right now, especially folks who have children and who are just climbing this super steep learning curve with having their kids home, and now with school year basically being canceled, and you're all of a sudden homeschooling on accident, which I know my dear colleague Jenny, who's on right now watching.
Yes. Hey, Jenny.
She has taught or built some courses that are also on the platform talking about homeschooling on accident, as she's been doing it on purpose for years. But beside that, to loop back in thinking about what we're all working on right now, it's interesting to kind of see the genesis of where we're all starting from, and that there's so much overwhelm out there. So rather than me building my video course and then having a download with that, I opted to not have any sort of a PDF. There's no checklist. All of my tips come across the screen as I talk through them. So even if you could only spend that 25 minutes, and that's all the time you had, and you did it while you're eating dinner, in that 25 minutes, you might glean that one tip that might stick with you. And then if you later on decide you forgot what it was, or you want to get something else out of it, you can come back and watch that course again, because all this content is evergreen. It's not going anywhere. And I thought that was really important to saying yes to this collaboration project, that any courses that we develop in the future are going to be included in what people get access to. And that's indefinite. They're going to stay up, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that is a big thing for us as a team. And we also knew that, like you're saying, people are dealing with all different kinds of things, all the way from homeschooling to like, hey, look, I've never dealt with IT at all. I've always just relied on the people in my office to do it. So Larry, who I know was in the chat for a little bit, he's also doing a 7-part series of courses around IT related things. So basic IT, it's not advanced. It's for the people like us that maybe have never had to be in charge of IT, and all of a sudden now it's in our home and we've got to figure it out. Yeah. So we've divided the courses into 3 categories, and each category has multiple topics. And we did this purposefully because we wanted to make sure that we were covering the whole range. Again, one-stop shop, right? So the categories we have are workflow and productivity. So the cool thing with your courses series, they fit actually in more than one category. So we love that. So workflow and productivity is the first category. The next category is daily living and home. So those are things that address like nutrition, which we'll talk about in our next section, you and I. So nutrition, money, the homeschooling one fits in that category. Things that are affecting our daily life, but they're not necessarily work related specifically. Right. And then the last category is soul care and growth, because we know that there's a lot of emotion that comes with this. So we've got a marriage and family therapist talking about, how do you reduce your fear? How can you calm your fear in times like this? There are life coaches in there. There are hypnotherapists in that section, people that are just giving you a lot of skills to help you calm and center yourself in this season. So I'm curious, Siiri, when you look at all those other courses that are being offered, what are the ones that you're excited about getting into?
Well, I am excited. So funny enough, even though we were talking about the homeschool course that Jenny has done, I also, because she deals in financial simplicity and financial services for entrepreneurs, I'm really excited to watch her courses that she's doing. And I'm sure that those probably have multiple categories they fit into as well. And then I also am really excited to go back over and watch Larry's courses, because thinking about my IT setup, I developed that when I first started working from home, and it's been functioning, right? But there are things that I see that are maybe starting to lag and trip up, and I haven't had to go and research because I operate under this break fix model that many of us work in, right? I don't have to fix it until the one I have breaks. But that said, knowing that there are continually new modes of technology that are emerging, and that I might be able to utilize that to really streamline my efforts, it would behoove me to go back and watch as a refresher for myself. And that way, because I do, honestly, I have colleagues frequently who work for themselves, whether or not they were previously working from home like I was and am, or if now they're doing it for the first time, and they reach out and they say, hey, I know you've been working from home for over 2 years. What do you use for this, right? Like, what's the external hard drive you recommend? What's your filing system for digital? What's your filing system for hard stuff, right? So thinking about the IT side of that, I realize now, like, I've got multiple devices going all of the time in every direction, even in a small, tiny space. Am I doing it right? I don't know. And should I be protecting myself differently? I honestly don't know. So I find a lot of value in knowing, I mean, gosh, 7 courses that he's put together, and I don't even know what all the titles are, but I don't care. I will watch them all. Like one night a week, I'm taking a class right now on Wednesday night. So that ends this week. So next week I'm going to start with Larry's courses and walk myself through it and be more educated about it. And to think that I can do all of that for the one-time cost for the platform, but then that includes all the stuff from Jenny and all the stuff from me and all the stuff from all 3 verticals, from all 20 plus experts that we have. It's honestly, it's a little humbling.
Yeah, it is incredible to think, and I've said this before, but I will keep saying it, because I really believe that one of the really unique things about this particular group of collaborators who have come together is that our primary motivation was that we really wanted to serve people and serve them exactly where they need it right now. And so everybody's heart, like, as you see more and more of these lives that we're doing with each other, I think you're just going to continue to see that we're all real people who have been through stuff, and we've learned our own ways of dealing with change, dealing with working from home, and we want to impart what we've learned to you so that it's a little bit less stressful in your life. And I love that we have that heart that unites all of us, despite, we're all from different backgrounds, we all have different expertise, but we're united by that. And when I look, I was just kind of adding up individually, like, if you were to go buy these courses individually, you would spend well over $2,000, and that's at the low end. Like, that was me, like, giving low value to each one. There's so much. By the end, we're still adding more and more, but by the end we'll have over 30 courses, and I'm sure we'll continue to add more as time goes on and we see what other needs we haven't met yet. But this, so we wanted to price it in a way that was going to be really accessible. And so thousands of dollars of content. Retail value, we put it at $4.99, which is still a steal. Yeah. But we've got this really cool introductory offer. Do you want to talk about that, Siiri?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So if you're watching this live stream on my personal page, you'll see that there is a link involved there, and that goes to our launch pricing. And the launch pricing is that you get evergreen access to the entire platform. Even as new courses are created, you never pay another $1 over that initial price, and that's $99. And there's also now, we're getting a payment plan set up as well. So for those of us who, and I believe it's live now, so
it's live now. Yep.
So it's a 3-time payment plan of $33. And honestly, when I take a step back and I think about it, I look at it from both sides of the coin, right? So I work for myself. So now is a really difficult time financially for those of us who work for ourselves. And I'm very grateful for clients who can keep going with me, right? And that's really important. But then thinking about all of the content that there is to learn that can help to start and generate additional revenue for those of us who are working from home, or now people are taking a step back and saying, okay, well, I'm on unemployment. I'm going to now take time to invest in myself and learn this new skill and get this new business off the ground. This is well worth the investment, especially when I think about hourly consulting fees for any of us who are on this platform is probably by and large more than the one-time payment for the whole platform. So if you're getting 30 people's worth, if there's 30 plus courses, that's 30 people's worth of 1 hour consulting fees, right? So again, that's like over $3,000 if you're thinking about it. And then if you think about it from a perspective of getting to go back over and over again, it just continues to multiply. But honestly, the number one thing that was really important to me when you approached me and asked me to be a part of this was that you requested, like, hey, if you're going to be a part of this, I want you to be able to connect with these people watching these courses directly. And so it was huge for me to be able to give people my information so they can reach out to me and ask additional questions. And so at the end of every course and on each course's page, you learn about the instructor, where they're coming from, what their expertise is, how to get in touch with them, and making sure that all of our contact information was completely available. So it's not just some, I'm not talking at you. Like I'm a real, like you said, I'm a real human. This is my home. I'm opening my home to strangers because I know that there's something to be gained from what I've had to go through. And if I can help just one single person make something just a little bit more efficient, or help them eat a meal where they don't have brain fog because they finally, they have enough nutrients in their system to help produce the work that they've been asked to do from home now. All of those small little things make it worthwhile. And if it takes one extra connection with someone after they watch my video to make things click with them, I want to be able to do that for them.
Yeah. And that really is an incredible thing that, if you watch the courses, you will see, definitely everybody's contact information. Even before you watch, you'll see, if you go through the description, you'll see each one has learning points. So a description of the course, there's learning points. So you'll know in advance, like, here are the things I can expect to take away. And then there's contact information. And then some of the courses have worksheets that you can download or links to outside resources. So it's a really comprehensive package. And people really are doing this because we want to serve. And so for me, the other thing that I just want to point out, so Siiri wouldn't say this for herself, but one of the things that was really exciting to me is that this would not only serve people, but also be a way for entrepreneurs to put a little extra cash in their pocket. And so, when we're talking about stimulating the economy, this is not going to some big corporation. This money is going directly back into the people's pockets who put it together. So this is I love that it just feels like a win-win-win. We're going to serve people well. They're going to be more equipped than they were before. Yeah. The people who are a part of it are going to benefit from not only giving their gifts, but also getting a little bit back in return. And overall, the relationships that are going to form is so incredible. So I'm really excited that you are a part of this team. And I just can't wait. Is there anything else about this subject that you really want to say to the viewers before we close out?
I think that one thing that I've been reminding myself of this constantly for the last month, even though I was already working from home for a long time, is that everything is temporary, right? Mm-hmm. So the transition is temporary. It might be that your working from home ends up being temporary. And also that some of the fixes that we put in place, they're not going to be the be all end all, right? This is not the time to engage your perfectionist tendencies. This is the time to make sure done is better than perfect, right? Ideal or tendency. And so I felt a lot of overwhelm when I started to hear from people in my life, whether they were colleagues, clients, friends, or family, that they were feeling this sense of overwhelm because there was just too much to do and they didn't know where to start.
Yes.
And that resonates with me. And I think I kind of took some of that on, and I shouldn't have. And so now when I think about the coursework that I provided for just this one course about working and living and thriving in a tiny space, I realized that, this might be the one connection point that somebody watching this, whether it's now on the live stream or after the fact, they might see that and they might think, oh, well, that's not really something I need help with. And that's fine. But there might be something that they do need help with, and they haven't found an easy way to contact an expert who is primed to serve them in that way. And so even if this subject matter isn't really central to what they're going through, being able to browse the platform quickly and look through each of those umbrella work streams that we have set up and then scroll through all of those course titles, it makes it so easy for me to self-identify, oh, I want to watch that one later. I'm going to add that one to my list of things I want to watch later. And then I don't have to worry about them going away. Sometimes, when you're on Facebook and then all of a sudden you're like, where did that save to? And you can't find it. Well, what I love about this is that it's just there. And I can click back into it and I have my membership and I'm done. And maybe there's one course that even if I watched for 15 minutes, that would alleviate a little bit of that overwhelm. And I can call that expert if I need more help on it. And that really is what makes me feel less overwhelmed in all of this strangeness.
Yeah. No, so well said. So well said. And I encourage anybody who's watching, if you're not already a part of, we have a Facebook group that's called the Work From Home Survive and Thrive Tribe. So make sure you get over there, because we're also sharing tips and tricks and building community there. Whether you have been working from home for a really long time or you've just started, there, your community is there, because there's people who are on all parts of that spectrum. And we're putting lots of resources into that space as well. And so get plugged in there as soon as you can if you're not there already. And Larry's saying he loves this stuff. That's awesome. We love you too, Larry. We're so glad that you're part of the team. Can't wait for you to be sharing your IT tips and tricks.
Yeah.
But head over to that Facebook space. And then Siiri, if people want to connect with you, how do they connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of ways you can connect with me. If you're seeing me on Facebook right now and you're either in the Thrive, Work and Thrive tribe, you can click on my face or my name in Facebook. It'll take you to my basic, this is my personal Facebook page. I don't have a business Facebook page, but on there you'll see my website, which is siirisampson.com. It's my full name. And you can go to the website and contact me that way. You can find me anywhere on any social platform. It is my full first and last name, Siiri Sampson. So Instagram is at Siiri Sampson. LinkedIn is Siiri Sampson. Facebook is Siiri Sampson. Also, if you end up going through and looking at the platform and purchasing the platform, then you'll have access to all of my contact details in there as well. And if you want to send me an email and ask me a question, it's just as easy as siirisampson@gmail.com. Very easy. You can send me a direct message on Facebook. I am here to answer questions as they come up. So as soon as I see one, I'm one of those old school people that if I don't do it right when I see it, I tend to forget. So if you send me a message the instant I see it, I reply to it, because I want to make sure that I get you back into the flow of whatever you were doing. You don't feel stopped dead in the water. So that's kind of the name of the game for me. I also love a good phone call. So if you call me and say, hey, I want to have a 15-minute conversation about this, great. Send me the email, leave me your phone number, and I would be happy to call you or do a video chat and get you any help that I can in any way.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Siiri. And if anybody has questions about the platform, you can leave comments. If you're watching the replay, just leave comments in the thread and we'll be able to follow up with that after. But I encourage everybody, like, click on it, explore, look at what's there. And like Siiri said, so $99 is the intro price. And just today, we haven't even announced this anywhere else. This is the first place we're talking about it. The whole team doesn't even know yet that we've actually introduced also a payment plan, just to make it really easy for you. So you can just click on the 3 payments of 33, and there's some cents in there too. Just that's how it had to happen. So you can click on that as well. You have the choice of either of those options, and then as soon as you do that, you'll have full access to everything that's there and everything that will continue to add.
Absolutely. And then also, just as a reminder, if people are hopping on now as opposed to previously in this live stream, Kelly and I are going to do a totally separate interview on the other 2 courses that I taught that are also on the platform. And those deal with my professional side of things. So cooking and teaching and food education, and trying to impart upon everyone at home the skills that I've amassed working in the restaurant industry, and how can we apply those to be more efficient in our daily home lives. So it's not going to be a traditional cooking class where I'm teaching you how to make a recipe. It is putting on literally my chef's hat, no pun intended, and thinking about, how do I organize a kitchen? How do I plan? So I took all of my skill sets in how do I run a team in a kitchen and how do I run production? And then what does that look like in a home setting in super easy to manage, really quick tactics that will basically eliminate a lot of the waste of work that we find ourselves doing now that we're home 24/7 and constantly faced with, I need to eat, I need to feed myself. So I'm excited to talk about those 2 courses, and that's this coming Wednesday here on Facebook Live. So that would be the 15th at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah, I always have to stop and really think about the time changes.
I know, right?
And that same day, I will also be having a Facebook Live with Jenny, who's going to be talking about accidentally homeschooling. So that's going to be a jam-packed, really exciting day. I would also say, if you know people who need this information, share this video with them, because once we're finished with the live, or if you're watching the replay, you can just hit share and you can actually share this out. And look for the topics that are coming up, like our live together on Wednesday, the one about homeschooling. We've got other ones too. They're all listed. The ones that are already scheduled are listed in that work from home Facebook group. And if you see something that someone who needs it, please share it, because them hearing from you is going to have so much more impact than if they saw an ad somewhere about it. 100%. So share it. We're here to be resources for each other. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Siiri. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and let's do it again on Wednesday.
I'm stoked. I can't wait. And for those of you watching, if you have questions and it's after the live stream, pop them into a comment down below. I'm happy to answer them as soon as I see them go live. And then also, if you have questions about this, but you want to ask them in real time, come to the one on Wednesday. Come to the live stream on Wednesday. I'm happy to talk about all the courses under the sun. I just want to be able to have the live interaction with everyone. And, you know, I want you guys to feel comfortable with asking questions, because if you have the question, chances are somebody else has the question, right?
Yes, that's a really great way to say that.
Thanks,
all right. We'll see you guys all on Wednesday. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
You guys have a good day. Bye, Kelly.